mohawk, gold chains, and I pity the fool. Mr. T is a pop culture phenomenon, but his journey to fame is just as unforgettable as his iconic image. Prepare to see a side of Mr. T you never knew existed. Before he was the Mr. T we know and love, he was Laurence Tureaud, a young boy growing up in the rough and tumble streets of Chicago. Imagine this, the youngest of 12 kids raised by a single mom in the Robert Taylor homes, one of the toughest housing projects in the city. Poverty, violence, and racism were just part of everyday life. It wasn't an easy childhood, and those experiences really shaped him. They instilled in him a sense of toughness, a need to protect himself and those he cared about. Now young Laurence, or Mr. T as he would later become, had a bit of a rebellious streak. He got himself expelled from high school for fighting, and later on, he even got discharged from the army for going AWOL, basically leaving without permission. He had a tough time with authority, that's for sure. He worked as a bouncer and a bodyguard for a while, jobs where you gotta be tough, and sometimes things can get a little physical. In fact, he even had a few run-ins with the law back then, getting arrested a couple of times. It wasn't all sunshine and roses, that's for sure. But things were about to change in a big way for Mr. T. He landed the role of a lifetime, B.A. Baracus in The A-Team. That mohawk, those gold chains, that fear of flying. B.A. was an instant icon, and Mr. T became a superstar overnight. Everyone loved him. Then he stepped into the world of professional wrestling. Teaming up with Hulk Hogan in the WWF, Mr. T brought his unique brand of toughness to the ring. He was a huge part of the first WrestleMania, a legendary event that changed wrestling forever. But even with all this success, life wasn't always easy for Mr. T. In 1985, he got in trouble with the law again, this time for tax evasion. It was a big scandal, and it definitely hurt his reputation. It just goes to show that even celebrities have to play by the rules. What is sad is that coming from a Hollywood background, Mr. T was viewed by some wrestlers as an outsider who didn't respect the traditions and athleticism of professional wrestling. This sentiment was worsened by his limited in-ring abilities and his reliance on his tough guy persona. And then Mr. T faced his biggest challenge yet, cancer. In 1995, he was diagnosed with T-cell lymphoma. It was a scary time, but Mr. T fought hard, went through chemotherapy, and thankfully, he beat it. This experience really changed him. He became a spokesperson for cancer awareness, sharing his story and encouraging others to get checked and stay strong. And then there was the feud with Hulk Hogan. These two were like brothers, the best of friends, but they had a falling out. No one really knows exactly what happened, but it was probably a mix of money issues and creative differences. It's sad when friendships end, especially when they're played out in public like that. But through it all, Mr. T has always been more than just a tough guy. He's a man who's faced adversity, overcome challenges, and used his platform to inspire others. He's talked about his tough childhood, his struggles, and his faith. He's done a lot of charity work and tried to make a positive difference in the world. Mr. T's story is a reminder that everyone has their own struggles, even the biggest celebrities. He's made mistakes, but he's also shown incredible strength and resilience. He's a true original, and there's no one quite like him. He was legendary, and that's why we're going all the way back to the beginning. We're going to explore his childhood, his early jobs, and how he eventually made his way to Hollywood and the world of professional wrestling. It all started in 1985. Wrestling was growing fast, but Vince McMahon, the boss of the WWF, now WWE, had a big idea: bring in a celebrity to grab everyone's attention. And who better than Mr. T? He was already a superstar, thanks to his roles in the A-Team and Rocky III. He had the look, the energy, and the personality to fit right into the wild world of wrestling. So Mr. T teamed up with none other than Hulk Hogan for the main event of the very first WrestleMania. This was a massive deal. They were going up against two of wrestling's biggest villains, Rowdy Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. The match was electric, and Mr. T and Hogan came out on top, sending the crowd into a frenzy. But here's the crazy part: the match almost didn't happen. According to Hulk Hogan's autobiography, Mr. T was upset because security wouldn't let his entourage into the building. Feeling disrespected, he was ready to walk out. Can you imagine WrestleMania Y without Mr. T? Thankfully, Hogan talked him into staying, and the show went on. While fans loved Mr. T, the reaction backstage wasn't all positive. A lot of wrestlers weren't happy about a Hollywood star jumping straight into the spotlight. Wrestlers like Roddy Piper believed you had to pay your dues, spending years training and earning respect in smaller venues before making it big. To them, Mr. T hadn't done any of that. He was just an outsider. Piper was especially vocal about it. He didn't think Mr. T belonged in their world and wasn't shy about showing it. But Mr. T wasn't there to win everyone over. He was there to entertain, and entertain he did. After his successful debut, Mr. T stuck around for a while. To capitalize on his Rocky III fame, the WWF turned him into a WWF boxer. This led to a match against Cowboy Bob Orton on Saturday night's main event. It was all part of the build-up to another big event, WrestleMania 2. This time, Mr. T faced Roddy Piper in a boxing match. The feud leading up to the fight was classic wrestling drama. Piper wasn't just trash-talking, he took it to another level. In one infamous moment, he brought Mr. T's friend, the Haiti Kid, onto his talk show segment, Piper's Pit. Piper mocked him and shaved his head into a mohawk, just to humiliate both the Haiti Kid and Mr. T. When the match finally happened, it didn't disappoint. Mr. T and Piper went back and forth for 3 intense rounds. Then in round 4, Piper snapped. He attacked the referee and even body-slammed Mr. T, getting himself disqualified. Mr. T technically won, but it wasn't exactly a clean victory. It was pure chaos, and fans loved every second of it. After WrestleMania 2, Mr. T's role in the WWF changed. Instead of wrestling, he became a special guest referee. In 1987, he stepped into matches to help keep things under control, or more often, add to the drama. One of his most memorable moments was refereeing a match with the Honky Tonk Man, where his star power got the crowd pumped up. But by the late 80s, the WWF decided to move in a different direction. Mr. T quietly stepped away from wrestling, at least for the time being. Just when it seemed like Mr. T's wrestling days were behind him, he made a surprise comeback. In 1989, he appeared in World Class Championship Wrestling, supporting Kerry Von Erich in a match. While it was just a one-time thing, it showed that Mr. T still had a love for the wrestling world. Then in 1994, he returned to the spotlight in WCW, World Championship Wrestling. He reunited with Hulk Hogan and appeared in Hogan's Corner for a match against Ric Flair at Bash at the Beach. Later that year, Mr. T became the special referee for their rematch at Halloween Havoc. But he wasn't done yet. At Starrcade 1994, Mr. T even stepped back into the ring, defeating Kevin Sullivan in a one-on-one match. Though his wrestling appearances were becoming rare, whenever Mr. T showed up, fans knew they were in for a good time. Fast forward to 2014. After years of contributing to the wrestling world, Mr. T was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. This was a huge honor, and it showed how much he meant to wrestling's history. The ceremony took place on April 5, 2014, and Mr. T's speech was one for the books. Instead of talking about wrestling, he focused on something close to his heart, his mother. His speech turned into a heartfelt tribute to her and to motherhood in general. It was classic Mr. T, emotional, genuine, and a little unexpected, but it went on and on and on. Eventually, Kane had to step in to gently wrap things up. Even so, the speech left a lasting impression and was a perfect reflection of who Mr. T is as a person. Mr. T's time in wrestling wasn't the longest, and he wasn't a technical wrestling expert. But that's not what made him special. He brought something even more valuable, star power. His debut at WrestleMania, I helped put professional wrestling on the map. Before then, wrestling was popular, but it wasn't mainstream. Mr. T's involvement brought in fans who might not have watched otherwise, and it showed that wrestling could be a true entertainment spectacle. And while some wrestlers weren't happy about a celebrity joining their ranks, there's no denying that Mr. T helped wrestling grow into the global phenomenon it is today. He showed that larger-than-life personalities, even from outside the wrestling world, could thrive in the ring. Mr. T, now in his 70s, is living a quieter and more relaxed life these days. He's moved away from the spotlight he enjoyed in the 80s, but still pops up occasionally for public appearances or charity events. In 2017, he even joined Dancing with the Stars, where he donated his earnings to children's hospitals. He's traded his signature gold chains and mohawk for a more casual look. Think hoodies, sweatpants, and a beanie. Despite the low-key style, he's still the same Mr. T at heart, staying connected with fans through social media. He shares positive, faith-filled messages and motivational thoughts, showing his gratitude for life and those who've supported him over the years. These days, Mr. T is also involved in charity work, health and wellness efforts, and motivational speaking. While he may no longer be body-slamming opponents in the ring, his legacy as an 80s icon and cultural legend is as strong as ever. Fans still love him, and he seems to be enjoying life on his own terms. Mr. T's wrestling career may have been short, but its impact was massive. His involvement came at a critical time when professional wrestling was evolving from a regional pastime into a global phenomenon. WrestleMania Girlfriend, which is now considered the Super Bowl of wrestling, might not have been the success it was without Mr. T's star power. He brought mainstream attention to the event, attracting fans who might never have watched wrestling before. For many, Mr. T's presence validated wrestling as more than just a niche sport. His charisma and larger-than-life persona showed that wrestling could blend athleticism, drama, and entertainment in a way that appealed to millions. By stepping into the ring, Mr. T helped blur the lines between Hollywood and wrestling, paving the way for countless other celebrities to enter the squared circle. Stars like Mike Tyson, Logan Paul, Bad Bunny, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger all owe a bit of their wrestling moments to the doors Mr. T helped open. But it wasn't just about bringing new eyes to the product. Mr. T's matches with legends like Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper showcased how storytelling and rivalries could captivate audiences. He didn't just show up to be a sideshow. He became a part of the wrestling narrative. Even decades later, his influence is still felt. Mr. T helped wrestling reach new heights, proving that larger-than-life personalities from outside the sport could fit right in. His legacy is one of transformation, bridging two worlds and helping wrestling grow into a global entertainment powerhouse. Mr. T wasn't just a wrestler or a celebrity guest. He was a game changer, and his legacy is still celebrated today. He didn't just wrestle, he helped make wrestling history. That's the incredible story of Mr. T in professional wrestling. From headlining WrestleMania to becoming a Hall of Famer, he left a legacy that's hard to forget. Whether you love him for his wrestling, his acting, or his larger-than-life personality, Mr. T is one of those rare icons who can truly say they've done it all. If you enjoyed this dive into Mr. T's wrestling career, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more stories about wrestling legends and unforgettable moments in the ring. Let us know in the comments what you think about Mr. T's time in wrestling. Was he a game changer? Or do you agree with the wrestlers who thought he was just an outsider? Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on watching and keep on wrestling.